So we get to talk about redistricting. So recommend initial map for redistricting. I know Sal Espino is here as our chair, redistricting task force. Hi, Sal. And Leanne Guzman's going to set everything up for us.
Mayor, while they set up, there's like,
We're
our
gonna wait just
attorney
a
has to
second.
call, so we're gonna
Okay.
get him on the phone. It should take about a minute.
Okay.
While they're getting him set up, Redistricting Task Force Chair, Sal Espino, on the initial map selected by your redistricting task force. And remember, this is in accordance with the procedures that you adopted, that the task force would take a look at all of the submitted maps and select one of those maps for your consideration as a starting point. So he's going to also explain the process going forward. And I would also just like to give you a gentle reminder that this is not a map drawing session. You will be able to do that on the 15th. And then on the 8th, there is a public hearing where you'll be able to hear the input of the public on that initial map. So we would just encourage that you all take the time to, get the public input before you make any sort of decisions. And today is just for you to be able to hear from your task force. Yeah. What they're working on right now is, and it looks like they have succeeded, is our outside counsel, Philip Arnold from Bickerstaff, is going to be available to answer any legal questions you may have on the analysis of this initial map. And without any further ado, I will introduce Sal Espino.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, buenas tardes. My name is Salvador Espino, but everybody calls me Sal, so good to be back here in this room where we spent many an afternoon and morning. First, I want to thank the City Council and City staff for the hard work to date on redistricting. It's not an easy process because you are working on the latest updated census data, but you're working on maps that have deep consequences for really what we call, our representative form of government. And here at the city council level, it's the local level, right? As council members, you work at this level and you most affect the citizens daily, every single day, whether it's about streets, whether it's about public safety, economic development, housing, code, water, sewer, trash pickup. I'm sure that wherever you go in the city, there's always a constituent that may come up to you. Even at church, believe it or not, folks will come up to you. And so these maps set the boundaries where the citizens of Fort Worth elect their representatives. And these maps, once adopted by the council, are in place for another 10 years. So they have, it's a serious responsibility that we all take to heart. And so if I can move on to the next slide. If someone would get Mr. Burt Williams, our vice chair, he stepped out momentarily. But again, I want to commend the city council for appointing an outstanding group of citizens. Oh, there you are. I thought you had stepped out. And I'm going to name, here are the good folks. It's been an honor, pleasure, and I've been really humbled to serve with these outstanding citizens. Service is the price we all pay to make a difference in this world. And these citizens represent the best in volunteerism, and they provided outstanding public service, representing diverse viewpoints from all over the city. And so we have some here with us present. So as I call their name, I want them to stand up, and then at the end, if we can give them a good applause, because they did outstanding work. They reviewed 26 maps along with staff, and I want to commend the city too for the level of outreach to date. So first, Burt Williams, he was a council member in Fort Worth from 1979 to 1989, and he was also mayor pro tem of our city. He was the vice chair, Burt Williams. From place 6, Linda Kennedy, if you're still here, please stand. She was here earlier. She may have to go. Ms. Powell from place 8. Ms. Powell, if you're still here, please stand. And then Dr. Whitney Boyd, if you're still here, please stand from place 10. And place 11, Osana Hermosillo. And if I missed anyone, let's give all these citizen volunteers an outstanding hand for the hard work they did. And you see the wonderful staff that we had from the city manager's office, city secretary's office, the law, planning, data analytics, information technology, communications, and public engagement. I personally want to thank Fernando Costa for putting up with me and answering all the questions that I had, and the task force members, Leanne from the legal side, the wonderful people that, from all the other departments, thank you so much. So now we move on. So what was the charge of the task force? The task force was charged with evaluating proposed district maps, conducting a public hearing on such maps, and selecting an initial district map for consideration by the city council. The city council retains the ultimate power to change maps, revise maps, and adopt the final map. We as task force members were not allowed, obviously, to create maps. We were allowed to evaluate maps and make minor tweaks. We were not allowed, of course, to make substantial changes to maps, but merely provide tweaks. Next slide. So here's the redistricting criteria that was adopted by the city's council earlier last year. And you see the top 5 high priority criteria. You know, one person, one vote. That's what really number 1 says, approximately equal size. Every citizen's vote counts as much as any other citizen's vote. So you cannot deviate the council districts by more than 10% from the smallest district to the largest district. And of course, you have to comply with our wonderful U.S. Constitution, the Voting Rights Act, the Texas Constitution, other applicable laws, no packing of minority voters, no fragmentation of minority communities, and no retrogression in the ability of minorities to participate in the electoral process. And 3, I want to commend the council for recognizing the diversity that makes Fort Worth so special. Create minority opportunity districts in compliance with federal law to reflect the growing diversity of our city, and such districts in which African Americans, Hispanics, and other minorities collectively represent 50% or more of the voting age population are intended to create opportunities for fair representation rather than to promote electoral outcomes. As we know, electability depends on many things: candidate qualifications, appeal to voters, voting age population, voter registration, and voter participation, as well as demographic characteristics. And then, of course, we want to contain as much communities of interest in single districts. And there you see the definition of a community of interest as a local population with shared social economic characteristics and political institutions that would benefit from unified representation. These could be neighborhoods, groups of neighborhoods, school attendance zones, and similar geographic areas. And then you want to have contiguous territory. Then the other criteria that the council adopted were compact districts. You want a district to be compact, and then there's a mathematical calculation that I'm not going to get into called the Polsby-Popper ratio. That has to be greater than or equal to 0.050. That deals with the area of a circle and perimeter and diameter. I'm not getting into that, but basically it's an evaluation criteria for compactness. And then, of course, you want to have identifiable geographical boundaries. You want to have whole voting precincts, whole census blocks, and block groups. And 10, do not consider the place of residence of incumbents or potential candidates. Here's what Fort Worth looks like right now in 2020 under the current council districts. You can see that the populations of the districts are not equal by long shot, under 10%, because you have growth in Fort Worth. And you can see where District 7 has 157,000, the smallest one, District 9 at 99,995. So that has to change. In the new 10 one, that's the other thing that's so important. We're going from 8 single-member districts to 10. In May of 2016, the voters of Fort Worth approved a charter amendment to go to 10 single-member districts from 8 with the mayor elected at large. And this is the other historic opportunity that's before us. How do you create 10 single-member districts, 2 new ones? When previously we've done 8. And there you see the demographics of each council district as presently constituted. And then here you can see the colors of where a lot of our diverse communities live. Here in the north side and Riverside and Diamond Hill, you see a high concentration of Hispanic citizens and residents. Here in Poly and East Fort Worth, over here in the Hempfield quarter in south side of Fort Worth and further south. And then you see here the blue for African American voters, east side, down here in the District 6 area. So districts 8 and 5, districts 2, and the 9 and 8 also have large concentration of Hispanic voters. Next slide. So here's the task force schedule. We began in October, and we worked hard all that month. In November, then we took a break because we wanted clarification about the procedures, whether city staff and city residents, as citizens, could present maps. They did. And also there were a couple of groups that missed the cutoff, and of course we allowed and opened the period back up. So initially we had, let me go back. Yeah, we had 19 maps, and we went to, ended up with 26 maps. And then from there, we narrowed it down to 7, and there were 2 more that we considered, so we considered 9 maps. We went from 26 maps to 9 maps, and here we are today after the 24th meeting on January 24th. We came up with a map that we recommend to council to consider, and evaluate. So here are some of the themes that are expressed in the public comments. Again, these are citizens, and 26 maps is a record number of maps ever produced in the history of Fort Worth by citizens. And that's a tribute to the council and staff for making the redistricting software available, for having public engagement, and for having meetings where citizens actually learn how to use the software. So very, very impressive, 26 citizen maps. Create a Hispanic district with a preference for maps X and Z. Those were themes expressed in public comments. The Riverside community wanted to be assigned to one council district. Currently, Riverside is split between districts 2, 4, and 8. And then also up in the north area, they want to create a large district that includes Park Glen, Fossil Creek, and other Fort Worth neighborhoods with preferences for maps M, Q, U, and X. The Como community wanted to be assigned to a minority opportunity district, perhaps District 6 or 9. And the North Crowley High School attendance folks wanted to be in District 6. So the task force recommended that the council consider Map X as the initial map for city council redistricting with minor adjustments so as not to split Como, South Hills, and Rosemont neighborhoods. Then we had additional recommendations. Well, we'll talk about this, and then there's a secondary recommendation as well. So why should the city council consider this initial map? According to technical analysis by city staff, this map fully meets all the redistricting criteria used to evaluate proposed maps. And according to the legal analysis by Bickerstaff, Heath, Delgado, and Acosta, the city's redistricting council, the map creates 5 opportunity districts, Districts 2, 5, 6, 8, and the new 11. Under this map, District 2 is a strong Hispanic district. Districts 1 and 11 and 8 also create an opportunity to elect Hispanics. Districts 5 and 8 are strong African-American districts. District 6 also creates an opportunity to elect African-Americans and Hispanics. And the map keeps 91% of communities of interest, including Riverside, within single districts. Many residents from all parts of Fort Worth have expressed support for this map. And here, it's kind of hard to see the demographic data. I'll just leave it at that, it basically reinforces and reiterates what the prior slide said about minority opportunity districts. You see that District 2 has a Hispanic voting age percentage of 68.4. District 5 has a African-American voting age population of 38. If I can see that myself, it's hard to read, 39.8. And then District 8, 34.2. And then a District 10 has a, let me see, District 11 has a 52.9% Hispanic voting age population. And then there was a secondary recommendation. We had a lot of citizens from Como come in and say they want to be in a minority opportunity district. And then we also, folks from Stop 6, they want to be in District 5. Right now in the map X, it's in District 8. But again, the task force was following the charge of the council as to not to make its own map or make substantial changes to the map. We were allowed tweaks, so we made this secondary recommendation to map X. And I expect the council, as is their right, will continue to make changes to the map, and there will be further public input and public engagement. So here's where we are, the actual process. Again, you see 26 maps produced by the cutoff of December 17th. We selected the initial map on January 24th. There were public hearings. We had public meetings where we heard comments from the citizens. Comments were also submitted on the website by email, letters. I mean, we received a lot of input. And then, of course, today, here we are presenting this map, and the new council take it, and on the 15th of February, you propose a map to take to the public. And then there'll be more public hearings in February, and then by March 22nd, you have the final map produced, and on the 29th of March, you adopt the map that will set the boundaries for the next 10 years in the city of Fort Worth. So here's the schedule in further detail. Now, the locations here were recommended by staff. They were in the different quadrants, north, south, east, and west, and you council, of course, have the prerogative to change those locations. You can see the meetings in Heritage Church of Christ on Monday the 21st, at the Como Community Center on the 24th, Victory Forest on the 28th, and then on March 3rd, MLK Community Center. And of course, you, the council, have the prerogative to change that. And of course, the big date is the 22nd. You produce the final map, and on the 29th, you take the vote to adopt the final map. Mr. Williams said it best at our redistricting task force meetings. The task force members, citizens of Fort Worth, and this council want a map that is best for Fort Worth. A map that captures the diversity of Fort Worth and the growth, and a map that gives every citizen an opportunity to fully participate in the democratic process. And here's the election schedule that once those maps are adopted, it gives time, obviously, for the next election leading up to May 2023, which will be the first, I guess, municipal election where we go fully 10-1. I know that there's a special election coming up, and legal can answer what that will be taking place under, but May 2023 will be when we go to 10-1. So with that, again, I want to thank the task force members, members of the public staff, the city council for the unprecedented level of engagement to date, and we look forward to the continuing public process. And as we learn, map drawing is not easy, but the citizens responded to the challenge with presenting a myriad of maps for the task force to consider. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve as the chairman of this task force. And, Fort Worth is a great city because of citizens and leaders that make this process meaningful, transparent, and open. Thank you, and I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Sal. That was excellent. And actually, you talked pretty slowly for you, I thought. So we all followed really nicely. Thank you to the task force members also. I know how many hours you spent doing this. You didn't have to say yes to each of your council members. So thank you for serving and for being here today. It means a lot. I think, but me personally, I'm just digesting that information. I think that y'all did an excellent job giving us a map to go with and some recommendations on the things you wanted changed. Of course, take questions from Sal, but I just want to remind us we got lots of time in front of us on the 8th and the 15th. We don't want to draw maps. Maybe just skip our questions focused on any process questions for Sal, if you don't mind. Council, go ahead. Anybody else? Wow, there you go, Sal. Oh, go ahead,
Well,
Carrie.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Carrie, you're done? You don't want to go? Okay, he's done. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sal. And I'm going to turn to David Cook to kick off these next few presentations. He's going to tie them all together for us. Thank you, Sal.